Alright, this is part 2 of lesson 6, solving 1&2-step inequalities. The objectives for this lesson are: I can solve a 2-step inequality, graph the solution of an inequality on a number line. So let's try some. The steps for solving 2-step inequalities are exactly the same as 2-step equations. So we're going to follow all those same rules of cross multiply, distribute, combine like terms, and isolate the variable. Once again, remember, if you ever have to cross multiply a negative number, you will change the direction of your inequality. Same with isolating the variable. So let's take the first problem. Do we need to cross multiply here? And the answer is no. There's no complex fraction. We don't need to distribute because there's no parentheses. So we're ready to identify our terms. Sorry, getting my pen. And it looks like you have a constant on this side here, a variable term here, and a constant here. So we need to combine our like terms. It makes sense to bring the 4 over to the other side as a -4. Remember, when you cross that line, you change the sign. Here, the line separates the left and right side of the inequality, so it's canceled over here. You may put -4 underneath it if you want to show that it's being done to both sides. So 5 and take away 4 is 1. The inequality stays its direction. We did not multiply or divide by a negative number. We just subtracted 4. b over 15. Our next step, that 15 is underneath our b, which is showing division. So if it's under, you move it up and multiply. So times 15 times 15. The 15s cancel out, and you get b is less than 15. If you don't like to have your variable on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side, because remember, right is wrong, you can flip it around. But when you do so, make sure you also flip your inequality so that it's still saying the same thing. So b is less than 15, or 15 is greater than b, is saying the exact same thing. Plot your endpoint. So I make the circle at the 15. I notice that it's only greater than or less than, but not equal to, so I do not color it in. And my direction is pointing to the left, so I need to point my arrow to the left. Focus question number 6. There's no parenthesis, there's no complex fractions, so we don't need to cross multiply. Back to 6 again. There's no complex fractions, so we don't need to cross multiply. There's no parentheses, so we don't need to distribute. You're ready to identify your terms. -10 is a constant variable. Here's a constant. These circles and squares are like training wheels until you get really good at combining like terms and knowing what you need to move where. So I need to combine my like terms, the two squares. I bring that -10 to the other side of the equation, write plus 10. It's no longer on this side, so I have -7n is greater than or equal to -49. Because they were opposite signs, so I had to subtract. Next, I divide by -7, divide by -7. So n is less than or equal to. See why? I had to multiply or divide by a negative number. So that's when I need to remember to change my direction arrow. -49 divided by -7 is a positive 7. My variable is on the left. That's where I want it to be. So I plot my endpoint at 7. I need to color it in because it's or equal to. And then draw my arrow to the left. For focus question 7, we have a complex fraction here, so we do need to cross multiply. I multiply my 4 to the -2. There's nothing on the denominator. The -2 is like multiplying by 1, so I will just recopy n minus 10 is greater than, that 4 is positive, so I do not need to change my inequality. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Then, so I'm done with cross multiplying. There's no parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. Ready to identify my terms. I have variable here, a constant here, and another constant here. I need to move this constant to the other side so that I can combine it with the 8. Write a plus 10. So n is greater than positive 2. Those were opposite signs, so I had to subtract in the bigger sign 1. The end point is 2. I leave it open because there's no equal sign, and I draw my arrow to the right. Alright, let's see how much of question number 8 you can do. We're going to follow all the same processes. Notice that our problem, the variable is on the right-hand side of the inequality, so that we know when we get down to the end we're going to have that right is wrong rule that we need to remember so that we point our arrow in the other direction. So let's go through this step by step. Pause in between and see if you can do it first. Like pause the video, see if you can do the problem, and then check the video. I have a complex fraction, so I need to cross multiply. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. It's very important on inequalities that you do put your answer where the arrow is pointing, otherwise you will get it wrong. 7 plus n. What I mean by that is you don't want to write, oh, 7 plus n is less than negative 8. See, I was saying something different. Alright, so now I'm ready to, I just finished cross multiplying, don't need to distribute, ready to identify. Ready to combine my like terms. Bring my 7 over to the other side of the equation as I about put plus 7. Minus 7. Remember that if you don't see a sign on a term, then you assume that it's positive. That's why I had to move it over here. And I wrote an 8 there. I meant to write 7. So the 7 cancels out. We have n is greater than. Combine my like terms, negative and a negative. Those same signs, so I have to add 15. Bigger sign wins, so it's negative 15. I plot my endpoint, negative 15. I do not color it in because there's no line under my inequality symbol. I notice that my variable is on the right side, which is pointing the wrong way, so that means I need to draw my arrow the opposite direction. Now it's your turn to practice these. Go ahead and turn to page 3 in your packet and begin on the group practice problems. Try to do each problem on your own first, and then you can push play to see, or push pause, do each problem on your own first, then push play to see that you're doing it correctly. The group practice answers are going to be on the next recording, so you can stop now.